Bob, you listen to me.
The X-Men universe is quite vast and is filled with several interesting characters and story arcs. While several television series and films have shed light on the adventures of the X-Men, their universe was supposed to consist of a lot more media surrounding these mutant superheroes. After Walt Disney's company's acquisition of 20th Century Fox was a success in 2019, many X-Men projects were scrapped away while a few were cancelled due to other conflicts. Today we shall explore every last one of these cancelled X-Men movies and television series and tell you all about them. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. X-Men from 1984. Created by Jerry Conway and Roy Thomas, the 1984 X-Men film was supposed to follow Professor Xavier's life as he recruits his first X-Men team. At this point, Professor Xavier was not wheelchair-bound and was fighting an organization known as Proteus, while also leading a battle against an entire mutant island. The movie synopsis made its way to the back cover of a magazine, and it included prominent X-Men characters such as Cyclops, Storm, Nightcrawler, Kitty Pryde, Wolverine, Colossus, and Circe. While Orion Pictures was working on X-Men projects at the time, this film was scrapped due to unknown reasons. Wolverine and the X-Men from 1991. Following the lives of Wolverine and Professor Xavier as they recruit Kitty Pryde in a world where mutants lived in secrecy, this movie was penned down by Gary Goldman. After joining hands with Kitty, Wolverine and Xavier faced the threat in the form of Thomas Prince, an industrialist who was turning humans against mutants. Prince had huge political ambitions, and a big part of his campaign was stirring up anti-mutant hysteria and recruiting Mastermind to start a witch hunt against mutants. Mastermind used his mutant powers to frame other mutants who were sentenced to death penalties for committing murders. While the X-Men tried to clear their names, Prince stirred up an impossible race war between humans and mutants. It goes without saying that the mutants emerged victorious in this war, but human-mutant relations were severely impacted in the aftermath. Sadly, the movie's plot seemed too simplistic and predictable, and Chris Claremont later revealed that he pitched the film to James Cameron. However, Cameron could not have been able to save this film, as it was destined to be cancelled in the wake of other promising projects. X-Men from 1994. Written by Kevin Walker before he went on to write Seven, the 1994 X-Men movie consisted of the original X-Men team, Wolverine, and a load of mutants such as Magneto, Sabretooth, Juggernaut, and so on. The movie was set in the anti-mutant dystopian environment that succeeded the events of Days of Future Past, where the Mutant Registration Act was being implemented. The government had also begun working on Sentinels, while Magneto devised a plan to isolate Manhattan and establish it as a safe place for mutants. However, Wolverine and the original X-Men team did not share the same views as Magneto's Brotherhood and declared war against them while dealing with the additional threat of Sentinels. This movie showed much more promise than Wolverine and the X-Men, and it was jam-packed with action as Magneto strived to cut Manhattan off from the rest of the world. It also included supporting comic book characters such as The Vault, Henry Peter Gyrich, and Canada's Department H, and it is quite a shame that this movie did not make it to the big screen. While the movie's draft received some good notes from 20th Century Fox in 1994, it was not considered good enough to proceed with production. The studio also felt like the movie would cost them a lot, as the destruction of prominent New York City landmarks at Magneto's hands would be no easy feat. Wolverine and the X-Men from 1995. Developed by Laeta Kalogridis, Wolverine and the X-Men was supposed to focus on Wolverine as he returns fresh from his adamantium treatment and stumbles across the X-Men. While Jubilation Lee first experiences her mutant powers, Wolverine's memory is wiped clean, and he teams up with her to fight against Magneto and his Brotherhood. Magneto was on a mission to wreak havoc with the help of the mutant virus, and the film showed great promise with one-on-one fight scenes between Wolverine and Magneto. The movie's plot could have been more elaborate, but it was still action-packed and filled with elaborate fight scenes. While the movie's first draft came out in 1995 and fell in the studio's good graces, it was cancelled soon after due to an insane budget requirement. X-Men from 1996. In 1996, a draft for X-Men was written by Michael Chabon, who had also penned some storylines in Spider-Man 2 and The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay. The film was supposed to follow the X-Men as they welcomed Jubilee and Wolverine into their gang in a world where mutations were being traced by the government. It was also set in a period when the legacy virus had already done a lot of damage to mutants. As the story progressed, Wolverine became a carrier of the virus and infected several X-Men, even though he was immune to it. An 18-page treatment gave us a gist of this film that was quite different from other X-Men media and somewhat dystopian as compared to the rest of the franchise. It also had no big names for villains and failed to make it past the treatment stage. While this movie did not make it to the final stages, it had quite an interesting story arc and was considered one of the brainiest ideas ever pitched in the X-Men universe. X-Men Origins, Magneto from 2004. In 2004, Sheldon Turner started working on a draft for a spin-off X-Men film that focuses on Magneto's life, and 20th Century Fox pitched this movie as The Pianist Meets X-Men. Turner later revealed that his script covered Magneto's life during the years 1939 to 1955 as he tried to survive in Auschwitz. The movie included events such as his first meeting with Xavier during the camp's liberation, hunting down Nazi soldiers to teach them a lesson, and even his eventual enmity with Xavier. Around 2007, Fox hired David S. Goyer to direct this film, and Ian McKellen was all set to play the titular character. They intended to use a computer-generated facelift technology to edit McKellen's appearance as the story switched between an older and younger version of Magneto. While preparations were in full force, Goyer maintained that the movie's filming would only begin if X-Men Origins Wolverine was a hit. They hoped to finish the filmmaking by 2008, but there were several delays due to the 2007-2008 Writers Guild of America strike. In this period, Magneto's drafts underwent some changes, and by 2009, McKellen dropped out of the project due to his age. Lauren Schuler Donner then stated that the film was at the end of the priority list and that this script would not see the light of the day anytime soon. Bryan Singer added that Magneto would not be produced as its plot supersedes that of X-Men First Class, and many of the ideas in the script have already been written into First Class's plot. Singer further claimed that he did not use Sheldon Turner's Magneto script as inspiration for First Class. While the Writers Guild of America rejected this claim, First Class went on to become a huge hit, while X-Men Origins, Magneto, was eventually cancelled. Bryan Singer's X-Men 3 from 2004. After directing the first couple of X-Men films, director Bryan Singer decided to leave the third film's production in 2004 to work with Warner Bros. Pictures on Superman Returns. Singer revealed that he did not have a working plan for X-Men 3. While he had a good idea for the story for Superman, he chose to work on the latter, and screenwriters Dan Harris and Michael Dougherty followed him even though they had been working on X-Men 3 so far. While this film did not see the light of day, it was supposed to introduce Sigourney Weaver in a villainous role as Emma Frost, while Jean Grey is resurrected. Frost was supposed to be an empath who attempts to manipulate and control Jean Grey's emotions, who kills herself but somehow returns to life after her spirit survives and transforms into a godlike entity. X4 and X5 from 2006 or 2011. In August 2006, Lauren Donner, one of the producers for the X-Men franchise, revealed that they would have to negotiate contracts with the cast members to continue with the franchise. She revealed that while new actors for X-Men The Last Stand had signed, they would have to negotiate with the older members to tell all the stories that they've wanted to explore across the X-Men universe. She revealed that she wanted to do Days of Future Past and look into several story arcs that spanned over 40 years. Again, in 2009, Lauren attended a Fox Blu-ray event where she hinted that they were cooking up plans to present X4 to the studio. She later asked Bryan Singer to do a fourth installment of this franchise as soon as he completed X-Men First Class. Lauren continued to bear good news in relation to this film, and in 2011 she announced that Fox was actively working to develop X4 and that it would soon be followed by X5. X-Men, the first-class direct sequel from the year 2011. After having directed X-Men First Class, Matthew Vaughn was all set to direct its sequel set in the 1970s. They intended to feature several first-class characters and a younger version of Wolverine and hopefully cast Tom Hardy for this role. Vaughn had even planned to create Days of Future Past as the third film in the First Class trilogy and cast Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen in their respective roles as Professor Xavier and Eric Lehnsherr. When Vaughn was done with the script for Days of Future Past, he pitched the idea to 20th Century Fox, and they immediately fell in love with it. Impressed with the storytelling in the script, they decided to greenlight Days of Future Past as X-Men First Class's sequel instead of following the original trilogy plan. While this idea worked in the studio's favor, Vaughn believed they were rushing with the plot instead of building it over time, and he decided to leave the franchise to work on Kingsman instead. X-Men Daredevil Fantastic Four crossover from 2011. An untitled crossover between the X-Men, Daredevil, Fantastic Four and Deadpool was in the works in 2011 when writers Ashley Miller and Zack Steins were hired to work on a script involving almost every Marvel character that 20th Century Fox owned. They first approached Paul Greengrass to direct the film, but the deal fell through, and Warren Ellis then worked on a draft of the film. The movie was set to revolve around a Superhero Registration Act enforced by the government after a fight between Molecule Man and Human Torch wreaked havoc in New York City. The rest of the superheroes soon joined this fight and picked sides that blew things out of proportion to a point where the government had to intervene. One of these sequences included an intense battle where Reed Richards pinned Wolverine down and used his hands as scissors to cut his arms off. By the end of the story, the heroes sought their differences out, and a post-credit scene suggests an incoming Super Skrull invasion. While the movie had a solid script, the success of First Class had the studio wondering whether they should work on a crossover or use their resources to work on Days of Future Past and give the Fantastic Four a reboot. In this case, the crossover film was put on hold indefinitely and eventually scrapped after Marvel Studios once again gained the rights to Daredevil in 2013. XForce from 2013. Jeff Wadlow was famously working on a script adaptation of the X-Force comic series in 2013, and Simon Kinberg soon started on a script for the same over the next 3 years. The project progressed well, and 20th Century Fox's creative consultant Mark Miller further revealed that the movie will follow the lives of 5 major superheroes. Ryan Reynolds had also announced that he would make an appearance as Deadpool, and he co-wrote some of the script with Joe Carnahan in 2017. In the following year, Drew Goddard was hired to write and direct the movie, and it was further revealed that the film would be an R-rated twist on the X-Men. Sadly, Drew's luck had not worked out when it comes to adapting comic books into films, and he had to step down from projects such as Daredevil in the past. X-Force was supposed to include X-23, the new Wolverine, and iconic comic characters such as Psylocke. Rhett Reese also said that the movie will consist of all the sex, violence and silliness that one would expect from Deadpool, and that the X-Men will get their hands dirty in this raunchy take on their stories. While several attempts were taken to further the production of X-Force, the project was sadly scrapped when all Fox Marvel projects were postponed until the Disney-Fox deal went through. Gambit from 2014. Created by Chris Claremont, Gambit was a superhero affiliated with the X-Men, and Josh Zetuma was all set to direct a film based on this character. In fact, they had cast Channing Tatum to play the titular character while Daniel Craig portrayed Mr. Sinister. The movie was filled with numerous iconic comic book characters such as Danny Moonstar, Belladonna Boudreaux, Multiple Man, Marrow, Vanisher and so on, and it has been developing since 2014. Initially, the creators hoped to introduce Gambit in X-Men Origins Wolverine, but Channing Tatum was unavailable then, and they had to cast Taylor Kitsch instead. Taylor's portrayal of this character was not well received, and producer Lauren Schuler Donner got Tatum on board by May 2014. Ever since, different directors such as Rupert Wyatt, Doug Liman and Gore Verbinski have been attached to this title, but with very little progress. While Rupert Wyatt and Gore Verbinski left due to scheduling conflicts, Doug Liman departed this project to direct Justice League. Simon Kinberg commented on the film's development and revealed that this would be the first of many films focusing on Gambit. It was supposed to be an R-rated romantic comedy focusing on Gambit and Bella, as well as the crime scene in New Orleans. The movie's release date had been postponed several times before Kinberg declared the film was scheduled for release on March 13, 2020. However, the movie was put on hold during the Disney-Fox deal and later cancelled after the acquisition was successfully executed. Hellfire TV Series from 2015. In October 2015, 20th Century Fox Television and Marvel Television came together to develop a series titled Hellfire, focusing on the activities of the Hellfire Club. This club can be best described as a fictional society for wealthy elites on an international level, and their members use their influence and power to shape world events for personal gains. However, the project had come to a standstill by July 2016, and the network decided to use its resources to fund a pilot for a different X-Men based series. Fantastic Four vs. X-Men from 2016. Simon Kinberg once stated that he hoped to create a crossover project featuring the Fantastic Four and the X-Men, where the two teams would be pitted against each other. He hoped to put them in a position where the two teams would fight each other over their differences. Sadly, the poor performance of the Fantastic Four film in 2015 led to the cancellation of this project, which would have otherwise made quite an intriguing watch for fans of both these teams. The New Mutants sequels from 2016. In 2016, Josh Boone and Nate Lee came up with an idea for a trilogy series based on the New Mutants. They pitched this idea to Simon Kinberg and hoped for every single film in the trilogy to incorporate a different horror subgenre. They wanted to include characters like Warlock and Karma and set a rubber reality supernatural horror theme in the sequel. This sequel was titled New Mutants Brazil, and Sunspot's father, Emmanuel Costa, was supposed to play a vital role in the franchise. Antonio Banderas was in the talks for playing Emmanuel, and he was all set to appear in a post-credit scene where he seems to be connected to the Hellfire Club. The movie was set to follow the New Mutants as they join Sunspot's journey to Brazil as he tries to reconnect with his estranged mother. Boone and Lee planned the entire trilogy, and the third and final movie was titled New Mutants Inferno. Josh Boone wanted the film to be a free adaptation of the Inferno saga and also focus on Magic's journey. One of Fox's executives, Emma Watts, later stated that the New Mutants would have been the last film in Fox's X-Men series and that sequels were definitely out of the question. Josh Boone later confirmed this and declared they don't intend to incorporate this trilogy in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Dark Phoenix sequels from 2016. After Simon Kinberg got involved in the Dark Phoenix project in 2016, he intended for the film to give way to a full-fledged trilogy. He hoped to spawn an entire line of films that covered the mutants' younger versions, and he pitched the idea to the studios as well. However, Disney's acquisition of 21st Century Studios went through in late 2017, and Disney CEO Bob Iger announced that the X-Men universe would now be integrated within the MCU. This resulted in a reboot within the X-Men franchise, and Kinberg soon revealed that Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige had greenlighted the standalone Dark Phoenix film. While this gave fans hope for a probable trilogy, a Fox executive named Emma Watts declared that Dark Phoenix would be the last X-Men film under Fox, and the rest of the trilogy was scrapped. Fox's Deadpool 3 from 2016. While Deadpool 2 was already in the works, Fox had hoped to follow the film's success with the announcement of Deadpool 3 all the way back in 2016. The film's plot loosely followed Deadpool's adventures as he worked alongside the XForce team, and the studio actively started searching for someone to direct the film while David Leitch worked on Deadpool 2. American screenwriter Rhett Reese further revealed that Deadpool 2 would set a base for the XForce team and that the third film would pick up right where the second one left off. However, lead actor Ryan Reynolds later revealed that the third film might not be in the works as the studio shifts its attention towards the XForce team. However, Reese and Paul Wernick were confident that there would be a third film, while David Leitch also hinted at returning to the franchise for it. While this film never saw the light of day, Ryan Reynolds briefly spoke about it in 2021 and revealed that it would have focused on Deadpool and Wolverine as they embarked on a road trip.
Hey?
X-Men: Fear of the Beast, 2016 to 2017. After working on X-Men Apocalypse under John Ottoman, Brian Burton pitched a spin-off film titled X-Men: Fear of the Beast. He was optimistic that a movie focusing solely on Beast's journey would sell well, and he even agreed to come up with a script in 2 weeks and present it to Ottoman. Ottoman was impressed by the first draft, and he got on board to rework the draft into a $90 million budget project. The movie was supposed to be set in the late 1980s, where a monster known as Wendigo terrorized the Inuit village before the plot jumped to the future and showed Hank McCoy living in the X-Mansion. In this period, Beast struggled to keep his mutation under control and relied on a serum to do so. After his true nature surfaces in front of the Friends of Humanity, we learn that Beast had been working alongside Dr. Paul Cartier to help him control a similar mutation. Hank later learned that Wendigo was none other than Dr. Paul Cartier, and he teamed up with Wolverine to bring him down. The movie also introduced us to Mr. Sinister as a multi-film villain who works in the shadows to bring the X-Men down. When Ottoman presented this idea to 20th Century Fox executives, he was aware that it would require the approval of Simon Kinberg, as he was the leading man behind all X-Men films. However, Kinberg politely refused to read the movie script as he already had plans to reintroduce Wolverine shortly, and did not want any script ideas that would influence his decision. Moreover, Wolverine's presence in Fear the Beast would have ruined Kinberg's plans to write him into other scripts, and Ottoman then decided to rewrite the script. He was willing to direct the film and was okay with rewriting it if it would help avoid any issues that might pop up in post-production. While Ottoman and Burton went to great lengths to bring their vision to life, X-Men: Fear the Beast remains to be one of the many cancelled projects that would have otherwise caused a stir among fans. Omega Red, from 2016 to 2017. Written by Brian Burton and John Ottoman, the Omega Red film was supposed to pick up where X-Men: Fear the Beast left off. The movie was set in the 80s, while Mr. Sinister establishes himself as a villain and works behind the scenes to test the X-Men, but the film did not come to fruition.
Alive or dead? Alright.
X-23, from 2017. After Hugh Jackman's tenure as Wolverine came to an end after Logan, the movie introduced us to X-23, who took over Wolverine's role in the comics. While she made quite some impact in the comics, James Mangold started working on a script for X-23's debut in the cinematic universe. She was supposed to appear in a self-titled spin-off film, and the character's creator, Craig Kyle, was also brought on board. However, there have been no further updates until 2018, and the film was likely scrapped after Disney's acquisition. Multiple Man, from 2017. In order to expand the X-Men universe, 20th Century Fox decided to develop numerous spin-off films that eventually did not work out after Disney's acquisition. One such project was a film based on Multiple Man, aka James Arthur Madrox of the X-Factor team. Multiple Man was a mutant who could create duplicate versions of himself, and James Franco was cast to play the titular lead. Simon Kinberg was set to produce the film alongside Franco, while Wonder Woman screenwriter Alan Heinberg worked on the script. While the movie's shooting was slated for November 2017, the writing was still in progress until 2018 when Franco was accused of sexual assault and inappropriate behavior as an acting teacher. Fox Studios decided to put the movie on hold and it has been firmly cancelled, especially after Disney and Marvel Studios decided to reboot the X-Men universe.
What are you doing here? Checking up on a rumor, General.
Alpha Flight from 2017. Around the start of 2017, Simon Kinberg stated that 20th Century Fox had been experimenting with ideas for future mutant teams in the hopes that they would expand the current film series. Alpha Flight was the name of one such mutant squad, but there have not been any announcements regarding any solid plans for its development. This team was developed to appear in Wolverine's backstory, and they were a bunch of Canadian superheroes much like the Avengers in America. Exiles from 2017. Just like Alpha Flight, Exiles was another mutant team that could have made it to the big screen under 20th Century Fox, but there was sadly no development since the movie's initial announcement. The film would have followed the lives of characters from different realities who were removed to correct the hiccups in the Marvel multiverse's divergent timelines. Kitty Pryde from 2018. After appearing in minor roles in X-Men 1 and 2, Kitty Pryde won over the audience's hearts and got a leading role in X-Men: The Last Stand. This character was portrayed by Elliot Page, who later reprised this role in Days of Future Past. However, there was no clarity on whether Elliot would return to play Kitty Pryde in this proposed spin-off. In 2018, Tim Miller announced that he would be directing this film, while comic book icon Brian Michael Bendis would work on its script. Until February 2019, Brian maintained that he was working on the film despite the Disney-Fox deal. However, Miller later gave an interview in late 2019 where he declared that he loved the idea of this film that would never happen. He further added that he does not even expect Marvel to contact him for an X-Men movie, even though he was excited about it. Marvelous verdict. To sum it up, the X-Men universe is brimming with potential, and these are just a few of those projects that never saw the light of the day. While it would have been exciting to see these stories come to life on screen, we can only hope that the future of the X-Men universe is brighter and filled with more promising projects. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.